With some of the portal additions, Jeff Brohm is showing you the blueprint on how the Cardinals intend to compete next season, not only for an ACC championship, but a college football playoff berth as well.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Thursday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my 6th year covering U of L, 4th year hosting this show. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. Of course, Locked On Louisville is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in the world. We've got a lot of portal talk on the show today. We will discuss the main positions of need after the first wave of portal commitments. There are 3 key visitors on campus on Thursday. We'll tell you who those players are. But we're going to start out today's show by discussing the newest commitment for the Cardinals program and how that addition supports this notion that Jeff Brohm is showing us the blueprint on how the Cardinals are intending on competing in 2026. And the way that Louisville is looking to do just that is by dominating the line of scrimmage, imposing their will in the trenches. And we're going to focus primarily on the offensive line today. And some might ask, well, Dalton, isn't that how football is mainly won, is in the trenches? And look, I'm not going to disagree with that, but a couple things here. First off, you see teams around the country win with a severe advantage in the skill positions. You see teams win from lockdown defense, great coaching. Now, of course, offensive line, defensive line matter a ton, but not every team just completely dominates the line of scrimmage. And the second part of this is we just saw how the offensive line play pretty significantly hamstrung this offense in 2025, especially early on. Early on in the season, Louisville could barely run the ball. There weren't many gaps to run through. They also couldn't really protect Miller Moss. Now, some of that was Miller Moss holding on to the football too long, but still, you weren't able to protect him for long. So what did Jeff Brohm do? He said, hey, I understand the assignment. And he went out into the portal and before yesterday added 3 starting caliber guys. Not players that, oh, you can talk yourself into being starters. These are 3 legitimate starting caliber offensive linemen. He also got a guy on Wednesday, South Carolina tackle Cason Henry, who was a multiple-year starter in the SEC. More on him here in just a second. But I tweeted it out last weekend. I feel like Indiana is showing you the way. Indiana has really good skill position guys. Don't get me wrong. Omar Cooper, Elijah Surratt, Roman Hemby, not to mention having Fernando Mendoza at quarterback helps out a little bit. But what Indiana does really well is they just dominate up front. They set the tone in the offensive line. And I think that that's sort of what you're looking at now, because 2023, the Cardinals offensive line was really, really good. 24, it wasn't as good as 23, but it was serviceable. And in 2025, it took a step backward. That was because you lost some key guys. Some of your portal evaluations didn't necessarily hit like they had in years prior. But this offseason, there is a clear focus on upgrading the trenches, getting some more beef in the trenches. So you look at the portal additions that the Cardinals have added. Eryx Daugherty, Johnnie Brown, Anwar O'Neal. Again, if you were to ask me, I would say 3 either penciled-in starters or 3 legitimate contributors. I think that Eryx Daugherty is a penciled-in starter at one of the guard spots in 26. One of the top graded interior offensive linemen in the ACC in 25. One of the more underrated guys. Didn't get his flowers, I think, primarily because he played on a bad Boston College team. But Daugherty was really solid. Had pretty solid numbers. Struggled a bit against the top competition, Clemson and Notre Dame, but held his own for the most part. Anwar O'Neal, all Colonial Athletic Association guy. Can start at, I think he'll probably get the start at left tackle if you ask me right now on January 8th. But I think he could play either one. But still, a guy that had really good numbers. And you're going for, at this point, it seems like production over potential in the offensive line. And I like that. Johnnie Brown, same thing. All Sun Belt, third team selection, if I'm not mistaken. Started a good amount of games for the Eagles. Can play either guard or tackle. Production over potential. So you've got those three guys coming in. That's a good investment already. And then yesterday, on Wednesday, you got a commitment from South Carolina tackle Cason Henry, who was a multiple-year, 2-year starter for South Carolina. 6'6", 310 pounds. He was the top projected offensive lineman for the Gamecocks in 2025, and he had a great start to the season. Had a shoulder injury in late September, and then a little while after that opted to have a season-ending surgery. In 4 seasons, didn't really play much his first 2 years because of injury. The last 2 years took a step forward. Started all 13 games in 2024 at right tackle, gave up 6 sacks, 31 pressures, and over 800 snaps. So you have that quality. A guy that started in the SEC, held his own, and was actually graded out pretty well. PFF metrics are a metric, not the metric, so not the only thing to focus on, but go back and watch. He held his own, and I keep mentioning that, but offensive line play can be tricky to assess because I don't think that grades like PFF tell the full tale. From someone that I talked to, Henry had every bit of the talent to play in the SEC. It's just the injuries. That's the thing here. Henry is likely going to be Louisville's right tackle in 2026, but he's got to stay healthy. The best ability is availability. And if you can't stay healthy, well, then it's kind of tough to talk about the value on the field when you're not on the field. But if Henry can stay healthy, that's great. You do still need a center. I would expect that the Cardinals over the next week and some change are going to look to bring in a difference maker at center because it's not a position that you really can teach someone how to play on the fly. Center is, in my opinion, just as important as left tackle to your unit. So you went out to the portal and you got 4 starting caliber guys. Jeff Brohm is showing you the blueprint. He wants to be dominant in the trenches because why bring Isaac Brown back? Why bring Marquise Davis in to get carries as well while also trying to keep Kewan Brown if you don't upgrade the offensive line to give them those running lanes and those gaps to run through? Like, why invest in your running backs if they're not going to be set up for success? So they're setting everyone on the offense up for success. They want to start things out in the trenches, win the line of scrimmage, and everything else will likely fall into place. I believe that. So your starting line in 2026 could look something like this. Left tackle, Anwar O'Neal. Left guard, Lance Robinson. Center, TBD. Right guard, Eryx Daugherty. Right tackle, Cason Henry. And then you've got Johnnie Brown, who is going to be in the 2 deep. So you've got some really good depth. Something that I'm interested in is, yes, Lance Robinson started 9 games at left guard to end the season, but he could potentially play that swing tackle spot as well. So could you see Johnnie Brown go from tackle to the interior and have Lance Robinson kick out to tackle and be a swing tackle if you need? Or do you keep Lance Robinson on the interior, maybe have Johnnie Brown as your swing tackle, or put him on the interior and just kind of rotate things around? That's pretty interesting for me to look at here. But I really, really love what Jeff Brohm has done in the transfer portal for the offensive line. I know you all have said, well, the trenches are important. Jeff Brohm gets it. He understands the assignment. I do, however, believe that there are two other positions that after this first wave of portal commitments, Louisville has to kind of swing for the fences here. The first one is wide receiver. And Louisville's had some guys on campus over the past week or so. Iverson Hooks of UAB, DeAndre Moore of Texas. I personally don't think Louisville's going to land either of those two guys, but they do have two standout receivers on campus on Thursday. We'll tell you who those guys are. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming between the subscriptions that you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control. And who has the time to track every transaction or hunt down hidden fees? That's where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions and monitors your spending while helping you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. I love how it tracks all my subscriptions and lets me cancel them right in the app with just a few taps, so I don't have to try to reset the old passwords that I forgot. No more hunting down customer service numbers. I was shocked when Rocket Money showed me what I was paying for that I completely forgot about. So let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster like they help me. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Card Nation, thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. Also, thank you so much for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. You'll get two distinct benefits. Number one, access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Louisville, which is compatible with whatever podcast service you utilize. You'll also get an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of Locked On Louisville. So if you go to lockedonlouisville.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes, you can learn more. So there are a couple players on campus on Thursday. This show is being released late morning. My apologies on the delay here, but wanted to get this show out discussing who's going to be on campus. Two wide receivers. Now, granted, we know of three players. That doesn't mean that there aren't surprise visitors that are being kept under wraps. We've seen that already. Plenty. Not only Louisville, but many schools. That's just how programs are operating. But two wide receivers that we know about that are on campus. The first one is Vanderbilt's Tre Richardson, 5'10", 175 pounds from Topeka, Kansas. He's listed as a junior, played one season at Vanderbilt, and he had an explosive season. 46 catches, 806 yards, 17.5 yards per reception, and 7 touchdowns. Simply put, he was Diego Pavia's deep ball receiver. He's visiting Louisville today, according to ESPN's Max Olson. If you're wondering who Louisville could be going after to be wide receiver one, circle this guy about 100 times. Tre Richardson he's a dog. He's a complete dog. This guy is just ready for another breakout season. Extremely explosive. 6 for 127 and a touchdown against Iowa. 6 for 75 and a touchdown against Tennessee. 6 for 159 and 3 touchdowns against Kentucky. Now, there were other games where the usage wasn't really there, but he's extremely dynamic, and I think that you can watch the film and project why he's a wide receiver one. He's going to go somewhere and be one of the most explosive receivers in whatever conference he chooses to play in. Now, it seems like the SEC is heavily involved, and you can kind of tell by the caliber of receiver he is by who's involved. Georgia is a team involved. Texas is trying to get involved, and they aren't the only ones. Goes without saying that if you want to bring Tre Richardson to Louisville, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you a lot. You might even have to overpay because you're going up against Texas. You're going up against Georgia. Kind of hard to sell yourself against a national championship program and also against Texas. But if you're Louisville, it's like, hey, look at what our last wide receiver ones have done. Dating back to, like, since Jeff Brohm started here, Jamari Thrash, great year. Got drafted. I think Jamari Thrash got drafted, right? Did Jamari Thrash get drafted? That is a very good question. I thought he had got drafted in like the 6th round, but maybe he didn't. The 5th round by the Cleveland Browns. Ja'Cory Brooks had a great freshman year at Alabama, and then things just didn't work out. He comes to Louisville to try to revitalize his career and has a great final year in college. Got the targets, got the looks, got the production, got the opportunities. Didn't get drafted, but I think that he's still showing out in Washington on the practice squad, but still. This year, Chris Bell, wide receiver 1. Who knows where he gets drafted? The ACL tear might make things interesting, but he's going to be a guy that I think is drafted in the first 3 rounds. If he was healthy and he tested at the NFL Combine, I think he's a first-round pick, truthfully. But I say all this to say that in the 3 years that Jeff Brohm has been here, the wide receiver 1 has gotten fed. Like, the wide receiver 1 gets the opportunities. So you can kind of point to it and say, hey, look, I know you're not playing in the ACC or the SEC, but you're playing in a very wide receiver-friendly offense that's going to throw the football. We have a quarterback that, yeah, he might not have the production, but we believe in his skill set. Like, he has a really solid deep ball. And, hey, you're a deep ball receiver. You're a playmaker. Let us allow you to have the opportunities to take another step in your college career and put your best foot forward in terms of getting to the NFL. Tre Richardson is an absolute beast. He's a wide receiver 1, in my opinion. The other player that's visiting today, is Dre'lon Miller from Colorado. Pretty highly ranked guy coming out of, I believe it was the 2024 class, if I'm not mistaken. He got to Colorado, 32 catches, 277 yards, and 3 touchdowns as a freshman. This season took a step back receiving, 20 catches, 158 yards, and 1 touchdown, but got an exponential amount of rushing attempts. He had 4 rushing attempts in 2024. He had 46 in 2025 for 134 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, that's only about 3 yards per carry, which is not really all that good. But Dre'lon Miller is a do-it-all type all-purpose back. 6'1", 200 pounds. I've seen the comparisons out there. People want to compare him to Deebo Samuel, and my only reservation of comparing people to Deebo is that there's only one Deebo in the NFL. It's the same thing with basketball. It's like, oh, this guy's the next KD, and I'm like, well, there's only one Kevin Durant. Just like there's now only one Deebo Samuel. Like, there's the ultimate Swiss Army knife, do-it-all type all-purpose back. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't sort of play that same role, and it seems like he does. You've seen him line up in the backfield, in the slot, out wide, in the wildcat. Like, Coach Prime used him in a variety of different ways. And I would imagine that that's sort of the way that Louisville would possibly use him. Now, he visited Baylor recently, didn't commit. Now he's going to be visiting Louisville, according to Matt Zenitz today. And I think that you have a direct example that you can point to and say, hey, this is kind of how we want to use you. Maybe not in terms of special teams, but Colin Lacey. Colin Lacey didn't get the opportunities that we all thought he should have, but the way that he was used lined up with what we thought. He was used as a guy in the slot. You played him out wide. You utilized a ton of motion to try to get him moving and create mismatches. You put him in the backfield. You got him the ball in a variety of different ways, and you allowed him and his shiftiness, his quickness, to be able to try to make men miss. And I think that that's the same thing with Dre'lon Miller. It's like you point to Colin Lace and say, hey, look, we've got a quarterback that we believe can spread the wealth a little bit more than Miller Moss could. Let's get you the ball in a variety of different ways, again, in a very receiver-friendly offense, and allow you to increase your production. I don't think Dre'lon Miller is a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2 for the Cardinals next year, but I do think he's that wide receiver 3 or 4 that can make some big-time plays. You know that the Cardinals were interested in Jalen Lucas, guy that played for Indiana in Brohm's first year. He ended up transferring to Florida State. Same sort of skill set, different caliber of player, like different skill set there, but like same intention. Like that's how that that's how they want to use that type of player. So these are our two receivers definitely to keep an eye on. Wide receiver is, excuse me, a key need at the moment. Another key need is safety. Louisville has borderline elite safety on campus on Thursday. This one's going to be a tough battle. I'll tell you who it is when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. Carnation, I know it's been a wild ride. It's been a roller coaster over this week and last week. Thank you all so much for making us part of your everyday routine, being a part of the Everydayer Club. If this is your first time tuning in, we are glad that you're here, and we hope that you come back. We're doing our best to stay up to date with the portal news. Now, if someone were to hypothetically commit when I'm recording this show, right after I publish this show, or a couple hours after I publish the show, don't worry, I'll discuss them on the next show. But the other player from the portal, I was about to say recruit, and I guess it is a recruit, but transfer portal player that's visiting on Thursday. This is according to 24/7 Sports' Alan True. That is Iowa safety Koen Entringer. Entringer was a captain this past season for the Iowa Hawkeyes, which speaks volumes because we know how good that defense is almost every single year. He spent the last 4 seasons with the Hawkeyes, 6'1", 211 pounds, from Michigan, has increased his production each and every season. He was a rotational guy his first 3 years, and then in 2025, he had 12 starts, 73 total tackles, 4 passes deflected, 1 forced fumble. There's that viral clip of him putting in that ultimate effort to chase down a guy from Michigan and knocking him out of bounds at like the 2-yard line. You remember like the DK Metcalf clip when Budda Baker got the interception against the Seahawks, and he looks like he's just going to be able to like just jog in for the touchdown, and then DK Metcalf appears on the screen out of nowhere and chases him down. That was the level of play that we saw from Entringer. But his 12 starts were at strong safety. And even though we don't really know who the defensive coordinator is at the moment, you can probably bank on Koen being a starting safety for Louisville if he were to commit. Don't forget, you've lost some players. So right now, it seems like, I mean, you have Blake Ruffin, Micah Rice, Jordan Van. Don't really have a ton of production. Safety is an underrated area of need because it hasn't gotten talked about a ton, but you really need to have some impact guys added to that back end of the secondary, or back into the defense in the secondary. So you would have the veteran presence there. He's played a lot of snaps in the Big Ten, which the level of competition, you know, you're going up against. A captain for Iowa, which is a defense that everyone respects. So if you're looking for another leader on the defense, why not bring in a guy that was highly respected at Iowa? I talked to someone from the state of Iowa and asked them, I was like, hey, how big of a loss is this? The response was, well, we didn't want this guy to enter the portal. And it was pretty honest, and I respect that. But like Tre Richardson, It's going to be a very uphill battle. You have Texas Tech in the mix. No secret how much money is down there in Lubbock. And I'm not throwing shade there. It's just a fact. Shout out to the Red Raiders. They've got alignment on the NIL front. No shame there. If you got it, flaunt it. But if he makes that visit to Texas Tech, which he's rumored to do after the Louisville visit, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a true bidding war. And something that I am focusing on is, well, Texas Tech is in the mix with Koen from Minnesota, one of the best safeties in the country. If they get his commitment, will they also take Koen's commitment too? Is it one or the other? Is it whoever commits first? Is it, well, we're going to see what Koen does, and if he says no, then we'll go to Koen, but we'll bring him on a visit just in case? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know like I understand what Texas Tech's motives, what their plan is. But if I'm Louisville, it's the same tactic every time you have a player on campus. You got to do whatever you can to get them to shut their recruitment down right then and there. The more visits they take, more likely it is that you're not going to land that player. See Iverson Hooks. See DeAndre Moore, who, for the record, as of January 8th, now things can change, but I don't expect Louisville to land either of those two players. So this level of addition, however, would be very, very beneficial for the Cardinals defense, regardless of who that defensive coordinator is. So, of course, we will keep an eye on this visit as well as the wide receiver visits. But we're going to wrap up the show discussing a little bit of special teams because I think I need to mention it. Louisville has added a punter, Jacob Baker from Eastern Kentucky. He's from Corbin, played 3 seasons with the Colonels. He will likely be the starting punter. I mean, you could probably think that that's going to happen. Carter Schwartz, David Chapeau. Chapeau was a senior. He had 43 punts, averaged 39.7 yards per punt. 62 was his long. Carter Schwartz had 13 punts, 40.2 average. 61 was his long. Baker, 66 punts in 2025, 42.3 average. 70 is his long. The year prior, 61 punts for 43.7 average. So just strictly by the numbers, the Cardinals seemingly got an upgrade to the punter spot. Now, punting was part of special teams that Louisville fans kind of put their head on their hands and just kind of sighed at, because there were some punts this year that you're just like, man, that's just not a good punt. And I'm not going to pretend to know if this is like a significant upgrade, but Louisville is trying something different, so that is worth noting. But that is going to wrap up this Thursday edition of the show. We'll be back tomorrow with some more portal news, anything that drops. We'll also preview the upcoming men's basketball game against Boston College on Saturday. There will probably be a good amount to discuss because there's been a good amount to discuss every single day. So that's going to wrap up today's show. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Go Cards.